All right, so here we are now with Joe Bee, the infamous Joe Bee. So he's again one of our main crew members here. And why don't you go ahead and tell us about yourself?
Cool. I'm an elementary school music teacher. I teach marching band. I play the French horn. I teach the French horn. So really in that niche.
Yeah, like I said before, this is great about this group is because you have people from so many walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
And normally you wouldn't think some of us would hang out with each other based on, careers or other interests.
Yeah.
But then, you get this in common, and then you realize we become great friends, and we
Yep.
do have a lot in common. And, I've always enjoyed that.
That's
really
I wouldn't know
cool.
anybody outside my own field if it weren't for something like this.
Exactly.
It's cool.
So how did you get into costume and prop making?
Back in college, I was doing a lot of research on the 501st. I was on the Sovereign Protectors forums a little bit, looking at Royal Guards, looking at Don Post helmets back then. But it seemed cost prohibitive at the time, and I didn't know how to approach things like fabrics and painting and all of that. So I backed away from it. A few years later, about 4 years ago, I did a full commission of the RS Props Stormtrooper.
Right.
It's where they build it for you. And I got approved, and I joined the 501st, and it's a slippery slope from there. And
Yeah.
So then after that, I built my first costume that I did on my own. That was my Biker Scout.
Yep.
And ever since then, it's just something I love doing. It's nice always having a project on the bench.
Right. Yeah. A lot of us, almost all of us pretty much at some point started off with a costume that was, either made or partially made. Like even when I joined back in 2006, there wasn't a lot of options, but the one that I got was pretty much already assembled.
Right.
And then after you get it, you have to do modifications and things to for yourself. But it's usually your second or third costume where you really start to learn, like, hey, you know what, I can do this. It's not as hard as I thought. And with you, one of the stories I always tell is, you actually purchased one of my old clone trooper costumes that that I was getting rid of, and you're very nervous about doing any modifications about it. And because it was already assembled, but you're a lot smaller, thinner than me. I get to lay off the donuts, but that's my fault. And so we had to do some modifications. I remember you were so nervous about that, and I'm like, you built a couple, you've got a couple, you got the skill, and then literally like after one day of sitting here making a couple cuts and a game plan, you went home and took that costume and actually turned it into another costume instead of the character that it was, and made it look not only like brand new, but like head and shoulders above what it was. It is so better. And now you're like our resident clone. If you look at your profile, the clones that you've made blow me away. And I say that to people all the time. I mean, you can see the helmet sitting here right now. But that's, tell us about that. Like, people are always say like, oh, I'd love to join, but I don't think I have the skill, or it sounds too intimidating.
Right. And like, I was absolutely terrified. And when I first tried on that clone, we submitted for approval and everything. It didn't get approved. But I think that was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me because, I already put the money into it and everything. I was like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
So, one day I just, you do your research, you go on the forums, you see what you need to do, you look at how it was built and everything. And one day I just sat down and, I made that first cut, put in that first shim, sanded off all of that old paint and everything, and dove headfirst into it. And it's a learning curve, and you don't always know what you're doing every time. And the thing is, that's okay, because you learn through doing things that you don't know.
Right. Yeah. That's a big part of our group and our little subgroup, because we have members all over the Legion has is worldwide, and New Jersey is about 100 of us. And there's lots of members that help other members. There's guys down in South Jersey, guys up in North Jersey, that get together, whether it's as a big armor party or just a couple people at each other's house, depending on how much time and space they have. But it's a reoccurring theme that, you learn something and then you help other people because there's always new members joining and they always need help.
Exactly.
And even out of all the costumes I either have or have made over the years, I'm still, clones. Some of the clones, the pieces are intimidating and complicated.
They are.
And, you know, I've been trying to work on the one that we pulled, you know, many years ago, which is a whole nother story. It keeps getting sidetracked. And when the time comes to really sit down, I'm going to come to you and say, you need to come help me make this clone,
right.
you know. And it's so ironic, you know, that you came to me to figure out how to modify what clone you had, and now I'm coming to you to say, listen, I got a kit, you know, put this together with me.
It's funny because, you know, you jump into it and you're terrified of it, but now any clone piece I'll pick up and I know what to do with it.
Yeah.
You don't get nervous about it anymore.
You're helping Shelby right now.
I'm helping Shelby right now.
Right, and that's, you know, we've talked about with other members, is it's great because even if you're not working on something yourself, when I have these armor parties, you know, the formal ones where we get together ahead of time, and we know ahead of time, you know, guys like you and Dave and, you know, Ralph and Kevin, the main crew will come over just to help people. You know, you might have one or two little things, but you're basically coming, you know, hey, I'll be there. You know, I got one or two small things to do, but I'll help you with, you know, your clone gauntlets or, you know, your whatever. And, you know, did you know how to sew before you joined, or is that something?
Nope. Right?
So, again, I testify to that all the time, even in our library troops when we talk about, you know, things that we learn and what benefits this group has, is, you know, you had to teach yourself how to sew, and you sewed all your Biker Scout parts?
Yep, and a lot of it I did by hand. All the stuff you were doing on the boots before, I did that all with like a really thick needle by hand, because I was scared of the sewing machine back then. But, you know, now, you know, making the straps and everything, it's no big deal.
Yeah, it's great. And Biker Scouts are complicated to do. Like, you know, I've done, you know, some of the smaller parts, but I still haven't made from scratch a cummerbund or a vest.
Right.
You know, I've modified flight suits. I've, you know, made the pockets and the collars and, you know, the suede and some other things. But, you know, actually some of that stuff I still have to learn.
Right.
You know, and I have a good foundation. But again, now we have, like, Shelby's here today, and she's, you know, she's an expert in that field.
Right.
So you're helping her with the gauntlets because you're an expert in that field, and she's going to help us with the other stuff.
Yeah.
So that's great. So what's your favorite thing about either making costumes or trooping?
Wow. My favorite thing about making costumes, I think, is just the problem-solving aspect of it, learning some new skills, you know, whether it be using sewing machine or a new power tool or something like that. I love discovering new things that used to be intimidating to me and now really aren't, just figuring it out. So I love that. And with trooping, it's just a lot of fun to get out there and step into a character, somebody that you see on the screen, and now you're that for somebody else. You know, it's always great with the kids too, and you smile and you get to do the pictures and interact. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, making other people have fun, you know, and I always tell people, you make something this cool, you can't wait for Halloween to come once a year. Absolutely.
You got to do something, and, you know, really giving back to the community is helping them and making you feel good there. But, you know, part of me is just like, I get to be a stormtrooper for the day.
You get to be a stormtrooper. The only thing that ever really gets to me is you don't get to see yourself. Yeah. You know?
I laugh because anytime we take pictures, I'm under a helmet and I have the biggest smile, you know, that there is. Like it's not even on. You can't help it, right? You can't help it, just a big giant smile, even nobody's gonna see it. So, well, thanks for being part of our crew, Joe.
Thank you.
You've helped out a lot of us, and we appreciate it. And we just want everyone to get to know everyone. Thanks.